All right, we are here at the World is a Vampire Festival in Brisbane. And, mate, we are having the best day. We are here with Billy Corgan. How are you, my friend?
I'm very good. As the locals say, Brizzy, right? We're in Brizzy.
Or Brizzo.
Brizzo. Oh, no. When I was here 10 years ago, they said Brizzy, so now the kids have turned into Brizzo.
It's just going to be bleh
or just
soon.
Briz.
Yeah, Briz is a good one. Good one.
Of course, we have the Carrie Morton, the NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion.
Woo! That's right. First time here in Australia, and Brizzy, so to speak, and
Brizzo.
Brizzo.
Or
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Who cares? I'm the champ. I can say whatever the hell I want to. I can say whatever the hell I want to. If I want to call it Brizzy or Brizzo, whatever. But no, first and
We're
foremost,
change it to Mortonland.
Yeah.
Mortonland. That's right.
Mortonland.
No, it's cool to be here. Thanks for having us.
No worries. And, of course, this is the first of its kind in Australia, and it's such a diverse lineup, and it's like we got wrestling, we got a bunch of bands. Now, this has only happened, one other country?
Yeah, we did it in Mexico City recently, and we had about 30,000 people in Mexico City. And on the wrestling side, it was the NWA versus AAA. AAA is the biggest Mexican-based wrestling promotion. So it was a real honor to work with them. And then, of course, we had 30,000 fans coming out to see, incredible lineup of bands, So the idea is to try to bring back a kind of a true alternative festival.
Yeah.
As we've seen with many of the major festivals that were once alternative, they've gone very pop, which is, that's their business, is all good. But I came of age at Lollapalooza in the 90s, which at that point was a traveling festival. And it was very important for us, and of course, for a generation of fans, to see a truly alternative lineup. And think of that lineup. Beastie Boys, George Clinton, Green Day, Urge Overkill. Who else was on? The Breeders. I mean, it was an incredible lineup. And to this day, people still stop me and say I was there. And so you got to make memories, but it's very important to put over alternative culture.
Absolutely. And I think especially for the kids these days, that are coming up with the internet, and they're not experiencing that like what we did. Well, and I think you're bringing it back, man.
In many ways, I mean, I grew up sort of somewhat dispossessed by the world, and I think it's even harder for young people today with the internet, the social pressures, identity being a huge issue. Who are you? And
yeah,
I think it's important that young people, if they feel alienated by society, and many do, not everybody, but many do, they can come to a festival like the World is a Vampire and find like-minded people and to celebrate like-minded artists. And people, of course, always say, how's wrestling fit into that? Well, wrestling really is one of the true last counterculture things in the world. Just the fact that anybody even asks a question, not that you have, but they kind of do the, why wrestling?
Yeah.
That just shows you that it still remains outside the mainstream, and that's the whole point. We want to present an alternative culture, and it doesn't, of course, doesn't stop with wrestling. It's fashion and lots of other things.
Absolutely. Were you there at the one over in?
Yeah, I was in Mexico, and with that being said, on just to tie what Billy's saying is, we brought a major wrestling company to Australia, and that hasn't happened in quite some change. And I'll notably say, WWE was here a few years ago, but until then, the National Wrestling Alliance is in Australia, and that itself is just a key of appreciation of what Billy and the crew is doing to bring prized possessions back into professional wrestling, especially in a place of Australia that wrestling is limited to a certain interior. And so it's a really cool thing, and it's something that I get to appreciate as well, is joining in this and getting to be a part of this.
Plus, the NWA has a history going way back in Australia. I don't know if you know anything about that, but the NWA used to have, matches in Australia.
Yeah.
So,
I remember the posters.
So it's like the history there is important too, to recouple that history. So
a lot of fans of wrestling in Australia.
Yeah, well,
a lot of fans.
They like their tough music.
Yep.
They like their beer.
Heavy stuff.
They like their beer.
Yes.
They like their tough music.
Yes, that's me.
I love the beer.
I love the beer.
Yeah. Hey, I think we will become best friends.
Like I just went to a rugby game the other night.
Yeah.
I didn't see anybody wearing any helmets. They like it rough here, as we know.
We don't.
Our brand of professional wrestling, which is very smash mouth, we're very physical. As we'll see here later today, we have a young local, Lucille Brawl, going against two NWA superstars, Natalia Markova and Kenzie Page. You're going to see a brand of wrestling on the ladies' side that most people would not, we've had plenty of ladies having pillow fights. This will not be a pillow fight. These ladies oftentimes will be, when you watch the entire show, you'll see the ladies oftentimes are tougher than the men, and that's saying something.
Well, a lot of them are down here. My wife's tougher than me.
I wanted to go to the toilet before, and I was going to ask security to escort me because I didn't want to walk through what was going on over there. Like, that was some pretty intense stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they'll punch you in the face, no problem.
Punch in the
I've
face.
been married.
Yeah,
I know all
yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
That's illegal in America, so I'm just going to say that. Full disclaimer.
Amazing. But of course, your buddies Jane's Addiction. You're bringing those guys out here as well.
And I always feel like I'm saying it wrong. Is it Amyl in the Sniffers or Amyl in the Sniffers?
Amyl.
Amyl. See,
Amyl.
In,
Do you
in,
actually
Amer-
know
in
what
America,
that means?
Amyl.
but in America we would say Amyl, right?
Yeah.
So Amyl and the Sniffers. Very
Yeah,
looking
perfect.
forward to seeing them live. Many
Intense.
people have told me, go out of your way to see this band live. Of course, I heard the band's music, but so I'm very curious to see that.
It's very Australiana.
Nothing wrong with that. Hey,
It's
listen, this country has given us AC/DC, In Excess. I mean, a lot of great rock and roll. So it's hard to explain because I spent a lot of time here. As some people know, I was in a relationship with someone who was Australian, so I spent a lot of time in Australia. Until you're really here and you see the way people live here, you start to understand why the rock and roll is the way it is.
Yeah.
A little tougher.
yeah, a little dirtier.
Right up the middle.
Sleazier.
Yeah.
Like straight up the middle, right?
Sleazier,
Sleazy.
and straight down the guts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even a great band like Midnight Oil, I mean, like even from the messaging point of view, like straight at you. No dancing around, like boom, right at you.
Now, I don't know how you are with spiders, but we have not spiders or
You guys
swearing.
got a lot
I
of
should-
things here that kill
We
people.
do,
That's all I know.
but we have a
not just the wives.
No. especially
no.
not the
We
wives.
actually have a saying down here. We didn't come here to fuck spiders. Have you heard that one?
No, I have not heard that.
There you go. It means didn't come here to fuck around.
We didn't come here to fuck spiders. That's
yeah.
the
So
saying.
if you go up to someone and
I
say,
think you got a new catchphrase.
do you
I
reckon
say
you'll
new
go all right? And you go, didn't come here to fuck spiders, mate. That's what you say to them, looking dead in the eye.
Do. Like, there's so many legs to get around,
Yeah,
and they're small.
yeah, it's
I'm
true.
just trying to visualize that,
All I know is you guys got a lot of stuff here that kills people. I mean,
and not just the wives.
no, like yesterday I went to the koala, like a koala zoo.
Australia's
Like a bit of a rescue koala zoo, not the Steve Irwin family.
No,
zoo,
the other
different, the one here.
I don't know.
Yeah, very cool. And yeah, of course the koalas, they got a kind of a mellow thing. They're all dosed out on eucalyptus leaves. But you go over by the kangaroo area, man, the kangaroos do not play.
Oh no! Have you
They
seen
do
them
not
fight?
play.
Yeah,
Have you seen them
they
fight?
will-
actually
No,
get back
but
on their
I'll tell you,
back legs.
you get close to a kangaroo and you're like, you look at those, because you know, kids in America, kangaroo, the pouch and.
Oh no!
No,
They're
not
like
here.
talons.
Mate,
We've got
no,
videos
they
of them
will
standing on their back legs.
fuck you up real
Yeah,
good.
Like
it's
literally
so-
boxing on with people.
Yeah.
Like, there's videos on the internet of them standing on the.
You just gave me an idea. Carrie Morton,
I'm not-
the
I'm
NWA
not
Junior
voting
Heavyweight
for that
Champion versus a kangaroo.
Well, listen,
A big red.
You
Get
know
him a
what?
big
I
red.
will happily. Believe this or not, true story. Real quickly, I was with Jeff Hardy. Are you familiar with Jeff Hardy?
Yes,
Yeah, the Hardy
absolutely.
boys.
Superstar.
Yes.
Jeff Hardy, he was filming something of his brother, and they decided Matt Hardy is a creative genius and all these creative ideas, and they decided that Jeff should fight a kangaroo. And this is on a video on YouTube within the webs. And, well, Jeff is kind of imaginary faking, and this kangaroo absolutely whoops the living hell out of Jeff Hardy. I'm telling you,
Jeff
whoops
Hardy
his
is
ass.
tough.
Yeah, man.
Whoops his ass all over the place. So from that along, I don't think I want to mess with any kangaroos. And quite frankly, I don't think a kangaroo wants to mess with the world junior heavyweight champion. Carrie
I don't
Morton.
think
No,
so
there you
either.
go.
Kangaroos aren't that smart.
Challenge given.
Challenge given.
If you're watching this and you're a kangaroo,
Skippy,
Yeah,
if you're
yeah,
out
yeah.
there.
You're out of your
Yeah,
league,
Skippy,
pal.
Skippy.
You're out of your league, pal.
you
That's
don't
it.
want to mess with this.
Now, I did want to ask you about the new album, Autumn.
Yes, sir.
Which I absolutely love so far.
Thank you.
The third part, May 5th. Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
Now, this whole concept that's coming together, how long's that been? How far back? Because I know it connects to Melancholy and Machina.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
About 4 or 5 years ago, when James came back to the band, I pitched the boys on this crazy idea I had, and their response was something along the lines of like, which means, to those listening, that means no. So during the pandemic, hey, you guys were in heavy lockdowns over here, so were we. I started to go crazy, and I thought, I got to do something.
Yeah.
I just started making the album. I didn't say, hey, I'm going to make this album. I just started making it. So they were kind of like roped into it without really saying it. They still haven't said yes, but yeah. It was,
So like
it was,
now.
but look, 2 years of work, literal work, 33 songs, and even the box set of Autumn has 10 extra songs. So for us, it's 43 songs that are coming out with this box set. So a real labor of love. But the crazy thing is everybody but everybody told me, don't do it. Not the band, like people around us.
Yeah.
This is a bad idea.
They said the same thing about Melancholy, and look at that shit.
They told
look
me.
at that.
No, the record company at the time begged me, like on their, not literally, but on their hands and knees, like, please don't release a double album. It's career suicide. You're coming off this massive album in Siamese Dream. Don't do it. And we did it. And it not only was our most successful record, it's one of the biggest albums that's ever been sold. You know, which in America went diamond, which is crazy. I think only 26, 7 albums have ever gone diamond. Okay, so you think if you'd done that and succeeded, people kind of leave you alone? No, they're still like, no, this is written. Now this one's really a bad idea. I mean, it was the '90s and MTV. Now it's a really bad idea. And so I persisted in the thing, and it's been our most successful album, probably. You could argue since Melancholy.
Man,
Adore was successful, but a lot of people didn't like it because it was kind of more mellow.
that's my favorite Pumpkins
Oh,
album.
thank you. Yeah, I love it too. And so somehow putting it together with Melancholy and Machina as a sequel, kind of getting back to certain type of music, not just rock, because people point to that, but also what the Pumpkins are good at, which is kind of going in areas where you shouldn't go and putting things together you should put together. And somehow it's like, people are like, oh yeah, you guys are good at that. Like somehow it's all kind of worked out. So blessings to everybody on that, because it's been a fun cycle, not to be too businessy, but...
Oh, but the guitar stuff on there as well, I absolutely love, because, look, I'm just going to say it, and I brought something...
You may be the NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion.
But, mate,
I can play guitar.
no, I will say, I have something here that's one of my cherished possessions.
What is this here?
Now,
Is
this...
this me with Eddie Van Halen?
What are we seeing
Look at
here?
that.
Look
I guessed
at that.
it. I guessed it.
This, I've had this since
Look
the
at
opening
young-
week, is one of my cherished
you,
things. Now,
Billy.
you interviewed
Eddie.
Eddie.
Do you want to hear the backstory on this?
I
Hell of a
want
good
to hear
looking
the
man.
backstory.
Yes, please.
All right, so this would have been 98. Pumpkins, on top of the world. The world is your oyster kind of stuff, and a vampire. And so I had a good relationship with this magazine at the time, and I said, I would really like to interview Eddie Van Halen. Now, first of all, Van Halen, total legend, arguably the greatest guitar player ever. And they have a very good relationship, and they need him to sell album covers. So suddenly they're like, why do you want to interview? They got very suspicious. And I said, because he's one of my idols, and I would love to introduce him and his music to a generation of alternative fans that wouldn't think they would necessarily like Van Halen. Because most of my generation would be like, oh, Van Halen, that's another music, and it's not, I'm in alternative, I like Soundgarden, I don't like Van Halen. And my argument, and I talk about it in the interview, is Van Halen really is an alternative band.
Absolutely.
If you really look at it, they really are. Van Halen made music that only Van Halen made. The fact that they're kind of classified as sort of a hair rock doesn't really get down to the root of their music. So, so I got to go to Eddie's house and sit with him for 4 hours. Quick story. Eddie's right there, like where your camera is. He's right there, and he's playing guitar. And it's like, okay, first of all, I've been playing. My dad was a guitar player. Yeah. You stand in front of Eddie Van Halen and watch Eddie Van Halen play guitar from you from like 2 feet away, and he's smoking a cigarette, and he's like this. And you're like, how does he even do that? It's shocking level of musicianship. And he's laughing, and he's smoking, and he's like, okay. And then he goes, and I knew he wasn't a fan, right? But he agreed to the interview.
Yeah.
So, and what I mean by a fan is, my guess is, I didn't imagine he sat down and listened to Melancholy, right? You know what I mean? He might have heard a song, but it's not like he's sitting there listening to it. So he goes, you play guitar, right? Yeah, he goes, takes the guitar off, play.
On the spot.
To me, okay, what are you going to play in front of Eddie Van Halen? like La Bamba? You know what I mean? La Bamba. I mean, what am I going to play? So I go, okay. So I just jumped. I went for it. I started playing like how I would play. And he goes, oh, you can play.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a compliment?
Yeah, dude.
Because he was suspicious, alternative guy. He saw that I could actually play the guitar, and of course I grew up listening to him, so I knew kind of what he thinks is good. And I wasn't trying to play like him, but I learned a lot from him, let's put it that way. So when he saw that I could play, and he goes, oh, you could play, I was like, all right, I've survived this test. And the other story, real quick, for Van Halen fans, I said to him, there's all these legendary stories about the amp that you played on Van Halen 1 and 2, the Marshall. And,
5150.
No, but the original amp that was like on Van Halen 1.
Yeah.
Like,
yes, of course.
the amp that he played through Eruption, like that amp.
Yeah.
It's for guitar players, it's like, the Rosetta Stone or something, right?
Yes, yeah.
And we'd heard all these stories about power things he would do and all this science stuff he would do. And he goes, that's all bullshit. I didn't do anything. Right? Which means it's me. It's to me you're listening. And I go, do you still have that amp? He goes, oh, yeah. And he takes me around a corner and, like, in a pile of shit and other amps. He's like, it's on the bottom of the pile. He's like, there it is. And, like, that's the amp. Like, that's the amp. The one that, like, 8 million guitar players went, like, to try to play like me. He's like, yeah, there it is. And to this day, because he was really, truly a nice guy. And we were blessed because I got to see Eddie at different times through the years. And even he came to one of our gigs once. You want to talk about great honor. But I still kick myself because he was being very cool that day. I didn't say, can we set that up and let me try it?
Oh, imagine if you did.
I was like,
you'd still be there if you had.
That's right. I'd still be up there.
Wouldn't be here today.
I'd still be up there in Coldwater Canyon there in LA.
Oh man, because
was that worth our time? Was that a good?
That
story?
was beautiful
Right,
because
good.
I just want to say, because I feel as someone who look, I've told him Pumpkins are my favorite band of all time. You're my favorite songwriter and guitarist. So it was important for me to read that and pay attention that you carried on. I feel like you've carried on his musical legacy in so many ways and expanded on it. No one was doing what you guys were doing. And
I appreciate that.
It's incredible.
Well, quick thing is, when we came into alternative music, or what it wasn't called alternative music then, new wave or whatever we call it in the 80s, people from the first probably year of the band were literally telling us, you can't do this, you can't do that. You can't play guitar solos, your songs are too long. What's this weird music? Your voice is too weird. We were always told, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. I mean, over and over, and even when we got successful, people were like, you're still wrong. So you learn early on in alternative music that when they go, so what are your influences? And you go, well, Black Sabbath and Queen and Boston, and they go, some indie guy with a funny mustache. He goes, you listen to those bands? Like, you don't listen to Joe and the T-shirts? You know what I mean? You know, Ricky and the Ringtones? And we're like, no, we listen to Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
So we learned right away that alternative music, at least in that culture, it wasn't cool to like people like Van Halen. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm in alternative music, and you're telling me that there's rules. And the more they told me there were rules, the more I wanted to break them. So on that level, me going out of my way to interview Eddie and say, because they wanted to put me on the cover, I said, no, I want to be on the cover with Eddie. You understand? That means something to me.
Yeah, man.
And I want to share my love of Van Halen with other people. It's hard for people to understand back then. Now it seems more like, well, of course, people get together and do stuff. You know what I mean? Back then it was really frowned upon.
And it broke the mold for me, brother. Broke them all for me. But, of course, I mean, what's next for Smashing Pumpkins and the World is Vampire Tour? It's going to go global. We're going to have more. We're going to come back.
Well, let's start with wrestling. We're going on
Of
tour
course.
this summer. Hopefully, Carrie will be on that tour. I hope you'll be there.
Oh, most definitely.
We're doing 26 shows this summer with Rival Sons and Interpol.
Woo!
And on select dates, STP when Interpol can't be there. So either way, both bills, fantastic bill. And we'll also have on most of the dates, not all because of logistics, the NWA will be on those shows, just like we're here in Australia with The World is a Vampire. So in 1 year, you're talking Mexico, Australia, and now America. So a total of, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 36, 37 dates for the NWA to reach a totally different audience.
Yes.
And as we saw, and I want you to speak to this real quick, as we saw in Mexico City, our brand of wrestling is very open-minded towards people who don't watch wrestling. And that goes back to what I was saying about music. I don't like when people say these are the rules and here's the box. I took a very strange form of music and I made it popular for people who didn't think they would like that type of music. It's the same thing we want to do with wrestling. We want to bring his father, Ricky Morton, the great legend, Hall of Famer for WWE. I mean, he grew up in an age. That's what you did. You didn't say wrestling's only for these people and not for these people. The business wasn't taking the wrestling to everybody.
That's the truth. And listen, and as Billy said, we as a wrestling company, a major wrestling company, we're here to make boundaries. We're here to excel what we've already exceeded, quite frankly. And with that being said, having been here in Australia, having new faces look at the National Wrestling Alliance and these top-tier athletes come to this country, excel in wrestling, and absolute dominate the competition, what else can we not do?
Hold on. I have to say, where we're taping this, we've had 2 matches so far. Well, the Australian talent just kicked our ass.
Oh.
We're down 2-0.
Listen, we're not going to talk about that right now, okay? Because the Australian boys, they can't compare to Carrie Morton, okay? So Billy can speak on one half of the interview time, but they can't compete
When
with
we
Carrie
leave
Morton.
today, you're going to go that way, and I'm going to go that way because I don't want anyone beating me up.
Can I just ask a question here? Like, every time you get in the ring, do you put that belt on the line? Like, do you put it on the line every time you fight here, or?
No, that's a big deal for me. Is I am a traveling champion, a traveling, reigning, defending champion. So with this championship, it is the legitimate world championship. You know, this is a $25,000 belt. So with that being said, I want to have a lot of pride with this belt and a lot of prestige. So everywhere I go, within the weight limits and the boundaries, I will defend this championship. Yeah.
So if you have a fight in Australia, just say you lose, you don't lose the belt.
No, if I lose tonight, if I lose in attendance tonight, then I lose this prized possession of mine.
One loss, gone.
One loss and gone. And there's
I've
not
got your back, brother. I'll jump in there with you, man. Like, that looks good on you. I've got your back.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I fight like a kangaroo.
The champ. Whoa, no. Listen, the champ looks good with titles, and quite frankly, this is not just the only belt that Carrie Morton's going to see. When I come back to Australia, maybe next year, in the next couple of years, I'm going to have more championships. My bag's going to be so heavy, I'm going to have to check in a few more bags. That's just how it goes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, boys, thank you for hanging out on the show.
Good talking to everybody. We hope you had a little fun with us.
And we'll have all the dates for the Worlds of Vampire tour all down here in the show notes of the website, wherever it is. Get your tickets now.
Click here.
See the boys.
Click.
Heavy Everblack. Let's go.
Thanks for coming.